Hey everybody, I'm MatadorPhilip. This here is the lovely HipsterMermaid.
Hi!
And welcome to our first episode of a new thing we're going to be doing. This is Balance and Bullshit.
Just a
At
little
least
mini series.
that's our current working title. We're not sure what we're going to end up calling it. I kind of like that though. So who knows, we might stick with that. But basically, this is going to be showing up on both of our channels, on her channel, which you should really go check out. She's really funny. And we're just going to be talking about anything health, wellness related because I've been doing a lot of fitness content on this channel, as I'm sure you've seen if you subscribed already. And if not, why not? But we're going to be talking about a lot of health and wellness and fitness related things just because we have these conversations all the time about just general things that we're talking about from day to day. And then we go back and forth for like an hour and we sit there like, why haven't we recorded this? We've just been talking to each other for an hour about something that we both already know. So we're just going to try talking to you guys about it and see if we can maybe give anybody any new interesting information they haven't had before.
Sounds good.
So we're just going to hit the ground running on this, and we're just going to start off talking a little bit about paleo. Now, I have nothing against people who do paleo or nothing against the paleo diet itself, at least in theory. There are a lot of problems with paleo that it has kind of in practice. Like there's a lot of pseudoscience behind it in particular, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, to put it politely.
It's an interesting mix because it's not a bad idea, like a lot of diets. Like you can see where the people who came up with it were coming from. Got my little notes put up like here. If you don't know, which you probably already do, but paleo is basically inspired by the Paleolithic diet. So it's all about eating like a caveman, theoretically, even though really we don't really know how cavemen exactly ate. The best we can do is guess. Which is, go ahead. I could see a sentence forming.
No, go ahead. I had it and then you branched off.
Sorry. I was going to say, like, we really don't know how cavemen ate. Like, in fact, like, one of the big things about paleo is it's really low carb. It's low carb and high fat, high protein, like lots of animal fats, animal nutrients, and what else is on paleo? Like lots of vegetables and some
Nuts.
fruits. More fruits and vegetables, obviously, but
It's a
nuts.
hunter-gatherer diet.
Yeah, it's a hunter-gatherer based diet, so lots of vegetables, lots of nuts, meat, like animal meat,
So
animal protein.
paleo kind of came about, like he said, from the idea of like, oh, it would be healthy to eat like the Paleolithic man ate, the caveman. Because there was a study, and if I can find the original study or pseudo study that came out that spawned this craze, this movement, I'll link it below. If not, sorry, I'm gonna do my best to find it. It came out saying that Paleolithic man lived far longer than the modern human because of their diet, because they subsisted on a hunter-gatherer diet, which was meats, lots of meats, and then, like he was saying, nuts, some berries, some fruits, but almost no grains. Because obviously they hadn't figured out agriculture yet. So that's where the pseudoscience comes from, and I call it pseudoscience for a very specific reason, and I'm sure that you're going to touch on that in just a moment, so I'll let you take it away.
Basically, the science behind that is, for one, it's basically flawed from the ground up because we, like many scientists will agree, we have kind of no idea how they really ate. Like we have little isolated little snapshots of how very small groups of Paleolithic people ate at a very specific point in time in a very specific point of the world. And recently, actually not recently, they originally did this study back in the 90s and they confirmed it a couple of years ago, saying how they've discovered that Paleolithic people as far back as 40,000 BC, I think. I'll put the actual study down there so you can go check it out for yourself. But as far back as 40,000 BC, Paleolithic man was grinding up oats into flour, which we didn't think they started doing until significantly later than that. Now, there's a lot of debate around that because we're not sure exactly when we started figuring out fire, because like there's basically they were making oatmeal back in the day. They ground up oats into flour and cooked them with water. But there's some debate as to when fire was begun to be used for cooking activities. So it's all kind of up in the air. But basically, they ate grains. They ate whatever they could because they were hunter-gatherers. Like they ate food. They also ate snails and grubs, all kinds of other yummy things that I'm sure we wouldn't find on the grocery shelves today.
A big part of the problem with this theory is that the Paleolithic man genetically is not the same thing as you and I today. it was a completely different subset of mammal. They were the pre-humans. So they're not going to, or the pre-us, essentially.
And so was the food. Like, the food wasn't the same
Absolutely.
either. The food has evolved, too.
The food was different. The world was different. The oxygen content was different in the air. So you can't apply a science, you can't apply rules that existed for, this is just a blanket statement, you can't apply rules that existed for an extinct culture onto today's culture and expect it to function. I'm sticking to that. That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying anything else about that because that stands on its own.
So basically, like, one of the things that we've been talking about a lot is that obviously this is very complicated because there's a lot of history, a lot of archaeology, and then all like the Paleolithic people who existed back then. There were a bunch of different groups of them and a bunch of different subcategories of them. None of them were the same. They were extremely varied, just like the people today. And their diets were probably extremely varied. They varied regionally. They varied like based on time, depending on like what season it was and what they had available. And the things it had available probably changed from year to year. So you're taking a very, like what paleo does is it takes a very complicated series of problems and series of questions, and it takes a really simplistic message out of it. It basically says, all right, now here's our 5 sentences that we took from this. Here's our handful of rules to live by based on this little bit of knowledge that we have on these people who we really know hardly anything about, and who we continue to discover new stuff about all the time because it was 70,000 years ago.
Which that is also one of the 11 like red flags of a fad diet. It takes an overly complicated study and simplifies it into a simple statement or principle. Just want to throw that out there. There are indicators of what is a fad diet, and that's one of them.
Another one is eliminating one of the food groups.
Yes.
Which I actually don't know if paleo entirely eliminates carbs. I think it does.
It doesn't eliminate carbs, it eliminates grains.
Yes, grains, because carbs are also found in fruits and vegetables.
This is a carb, just in case you didn't know that. That's a lemon. That's a mango. Those are carbs.
It's an apple. It's also a carb.
That is also a carb. Basically, this little basket is carbs.
Which is nothing bad with carbs.
Nothing bad with carbs. We'll get to that later.
Yep. We're gonna talk about lots of stuff in these little series. You'll throw away that lemon.
This lemon.
I guess that lemon was a bad example. Sorry.
Keep talking.
What else did I have to say about paleo? I feel like I kind of went through my my bullet points on that one. Do you have anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. So the entire study upon why paleo is better for you is based upon the statement, oh, well, they lived longer back then.
I've heard that from a lot of people.
That's one of the main things that they tout as the reason to go paleo is because the Paleolithic man lived longer. Well, let me go ahead and break this to you. Sorry to break some hearts, but the average lifespan of a humanoid Paleolithic man before the age of agriculture, which is the inclusion of grains in the diet, was roughly 25 to 30 years. Which,
to be fair, I'm sure had something to do with the...
getting eaten.
Yeah, getting eaten a lot. Just the world was not a habitable or a hospitable place back then.
One way or the other, that's the thing that's most screamed about in the paleo community, is that's how to get a longer life. And right from the get-go, it is a fallacy. So, sorry to break your little hearts, but it's not true. It's not founded in science.
One of my favorite interviews that I've heard is with a guy who's kind of disputing paleo. Like, he doesn't dislike paleo, but he's kind of disputing it with like a paleo proponent. And her voice is really funny for one. I wish I could find that actual clip. But her voice was like, she basically countered when she was saying like, oh, well, but people lived so much longer back then. You know, we had such longer lifespans back then. And he just kind of laughs. He chuckles. You know, like, I don't think that's true. And she goes, yeah, of course it is. They've done studies. Like with like the tone in her voice, like, yeah, they've done studies. Like I don't know who they are. I don't know how many studies they've done.
Who are they? How did they do the studies? What were the studies? Can you cite the studies?
Were the studies like viable studies?
All of these things are important. That being said, I'll go ahead and say this now. You're free to discuss with us if you disagree with anything that we're saying. We're saying what we've learned based on our research, based on a lot of information that we've gotten from a lot of people whose advice and whose knowledge we respect a lot. Medical professionals, nutritionists, fitness professionals, people who have made this their life to know how to take care of your body. This is the advice of the people. That's where we're getting this advice. So I'm not saying it's right, but that's what we've collected. So if you have anything that you would like to dispute or refute with us, we welcome discussion. But if you're going to straight out refute something that we're saying, I'd really appreciate a source. Like, don't go in the comments and yell, "That's wrong, paleo is the way to go, you're stupid." I don't want to hear that, because it doesn't do anything but add noise. If you have a study, please link it with your argument. I would absolutely love to read it. I love discussion like this. I don't like arguments.
Oh yeah, we'd be happy to read anything else you have that might, even if it contradicts what we're saying.
Absolutely. In fact, that's most interesting if it completely contradicts what I'm saying.
Because I'm sure there is. Like, there are plenty of studies out there. Like, you can find a study to say pretty much anything.
You can. You can.
And like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't like absolutely hate paleo. In fact, like, I was listening to, there was one nutritionist or professional of some kind. If I can find his bit, I'll link that in the description down there too. But he was basically saying that he really appreciates what paleo is, but he thinks it works a little bit better as kind of an introduction to eating clean and to removing all unnatural substances from your diet. Like, you basically do paleo for a few months, like 6 months to maybe even a year tops. And then you gradually phase everything else back in, because now you've gotten more used to eating natural, eating whole, eating organic, and eating things that actually came from the earth, which is a really good way to eat.
Diet.
Mm-hmm. So, which is a fantastic way to eat.
That's why, that's the, like he was just saying, we don't have an issue with paleo. Paleo, in theory, has the right idea. It's heading in the right direction. Eat like people ate before we were processing foods. Eat whole foods, eat raw foods, eat natural foods, eat organic where you can, eat local where you can. Those are all great, sound health advice blurbs that come with paleo. Where it gets lost is certain foods are bad.
Yeah, don't eat carbs.
Don't eat, not carbs.
Don't eat grains.
Don't eat grains. Where it gets lost is the idea that grains are bad. Or the idea that this is king and anything else is wrong. Or the idea that this thing that comes in a box, oh, it's paleo free. You've missed the point then. If it comes in a box, it's not paleo.
Is it paleo free there for a second?
Paleo friendly is what I meant.
There we go. I was like, how can it be paleo free?
I was thinking gluten free.
There we go.
And paleo friendly, because I was going on a rant earlier. Anyways, paleo in its widest construct, like the widest net you can cast, has the right idea, and I don't have anything against it as a guide to eating clean. It's a good direction to head in. But what bothers me when people say, oh, I can't eat that because it's not paleo, when it's like a piece of bread or, I don't know, oatmeal. It's like,
Or you see all the recipes on Pinterest are like, here's a paleo-friendly pizza.
Oh yeah, it's paleo-friendly pizza. Here's a triple layer chocolate cake with double cream icing. It's paleo-friendly. That's where I get my beef. So that's our issue with paleo.
We hope you enjoyed us talking about our issue with paleo.
We hope it was informative. We really do. We hope it wasn't just a rant and a rave on a diet, because this is something that bothers us when we see it in the health and fitness community. Sort of like an ignorance about the way to nourish your body. And
it's also developed kind of a cult following. Like, all the people that I've known in my life who have gotten into paleo, they kind of tended to become like all about paleo. It's like the CrossFit of nutrition, which we'll talk about that later. That's a different topic.
All of this aside, paleo isn't a bad way to go. Just make sure that you educate yourself on it. Don't just follow Pinterest. Don't just follow a couple blurbs you see on the internet. Don't follow what your friend says on Facebook. Do your research. Talk to a doctor. Talk to a nutritionist first. You know, they know what they're doing, and they can help guide you on the path to actually doing it correctly. Because you could get all kinds of problems with your health with paleo if you don't do it right. And it's really easy to do it wrong. So that's what we have.
Yeah, that was this episode of Balance and Bullshit. So we hope you enjoyed watching. We're going to be making a bunch of these. I don't know what the rhyme or reason of them being released is going to be, but we're going to be just kind of recording them in batches and putting them out throughout the week on both of our channels. So go subscribe to her channel as well to see more stuff that you won't see here. And we'll see you next time.
Bye!